Imagine a friend asking you to store an old freezer in his basement for a few months. He says there's meat in there and he doesn't want it to spoil because there's no electricity. It seems like a perfectly reasonable request. But when you open the freezer, instead of food, you find human remains: hands, feet, teeth, and parts of a spine. Then the police find out something even more horrifying. The ex-girlfriend of the owner of the freezer has been missing for months, and no one knows where she is. In March of 2017, a man named Kenneth Azemba received a call from his friend Anthony. He asked him to keep a refrigerator in his basement because he had no electricity and didn't want the meat in the freezer to spoil. Kenneth agreed without hesitation. 4 months later, on July 30th, his wife decided to open the freezer to get some meat for dinner. Then she noticed that the appliance was locked with a huge padlock. The two broke the door open. Inside, they found human remains placed in plastic bags. Police found hands, feet, teeth, and parts of a spine. But the most terrifying thing was something else. Anthony's ex-girlfriend had been missing for months. Her name was Shannon Elizabeth Graves. Shannon was born on November 4th, 1988, in Ohio. Later, her mother, Christine, began a relationship with a man named Ronnie, who adopted Shannon as his own daughter. She was very close to her family, especially her younger sister, Devi. Everyone described her as a good and kind person. After her mother's death in 2013, her life began to change. Shannon began using drugs and got into toxic relationships. However, she graduated from cosmetology school in 2016 and was trying to get her life back on track. That's when she met Arturo Novoa. He seemed charming and calm, but he hid a long criminal past. Over the years, he was arrested numerous times for assault, prison escapes, arson, weapons, and trespassing. He sometimes used a false name, Anthony Gonzalez. Despite this, Shannon fell in love with him. The two became inseparable. Arturo even gave her a puppy, which she named Molly. At Christmas, everything seemed normal. But in February 2017, Shannon suddenly stopped contacting her family. She didn't show up for her sister's birthday. Then she missed Easter. It soon became clear that she had stopped going to work. The family began searching for answers. Some friends said they had seen her fighting with a man at a party shortly before she disappeared. Others mentioned that Shannon had doubts about her relationship with Arturo and thought he was acting strangely. When Ronnie contacted Arturo, he claimed that they had broken up and that Shannon had moved to Cleveland for another boy. The story sounded dubious. The family went to her house. Her car was still parked outside. Her phone was inside. Only her dog, Molly, was missing. Shortly after, Arturo was arrested on drug charges, and the family was unable to speak to him. In June 2017, Shannon was officially reported missing. Police began an investigation. They checked hospitals, prisons, and her phone records. Everyone around her pointed to Arturo as the last person who probably saw her alive. But after the interrogation, he repeated the same story, that Shannon just left. Detectives began checking with other people from her past, including an ex-boyfriend named John. He also had a criminal record and had been released from prison just weeks before Shannon disappeared. The investigation gradually began to narrow down to Arturo Novoa. Shannon's ex-boyfriend, John, was questioned and admitted that he still loved her, but stated that she wanted to stay with Arturo. This led detectives to finally turn their attention to her current partner. Meanwhile, Shannon's phone records showed something strange. At the end of February, she went to work as usual. After that, her phone was turned off and the number was transferred to another person. At the same time, she also stopped all activity on her bank cards. The investigation was at a standstill until July 30th, 2017. Then Kenneth Azemba called the police and reported that he had found human remains in a freezer left at his home by a friend. When police arrived, they found body parts wrapped in double bags and partially decomposed with acid. Kenneth and his wife Jill told the same story. The freezer belonged to a man they knew as Anthony Gonzalez. He told them there was meat inside and asked them to store the device in their basement. Kenneth explained that he met Anthony through musical circles. According to him, the man was sometimes unstable and aggressive, but he never suspected anything like that. Jill said that Anthony explicitly warned them not to open the freezer. She broke the padlock with a screwdriver and smelled a terrible smell. Inside were black bags and a bucket. When Kenneth got home, the two opened them and discovered a human leg. After questioning, the police learned that Anthony Gonzalez was actually Arturo Novoa. Soon, forensic doctors confirmed the worst. One of the legs had a scorpion tattoo, the same as Shannon's. Her identity was definitively confirmed through fingerprints. But the head was missing. Because of this, the medical examiner was unable to determine the exact cause of death. It was only known that the body had been dismembered with sharp instruments. While Shannon's family held a vigil in her memory, police continued to investigate Arturo. Then, even more shocking information came to light. After Shannon's disappearance, he quickly began a relationship with a woman named Katrina Layton. Just 2 weeks after Shannon was last seen, Katrina was living with him. The police arrested the two and searched their apartment. Inside, they found bloodstains on the walls, a butcher knife, a saw, and traces of sulfuric acid. They also found a manual for the same model of freezer in which the remains were found. Arturo remained calm during the interrogation and denied everything. Katrina repeated the same story, but the police found a key on her that unlocked the lock on the freezer. That was enough to arrest them. Then investigators discovered something else. Katrina had been posing as Shannon for months. She used her phone. She went to work for her. She used her shopping cards. She drove her car. She even took her dog, Molly, and moved him into the home she shared with Arturo. It soon became clear that the two had probably been covering up the murder from the beginning. Then another witness came forward in the investigation. A man named Steve told police that months earlier, Arturo had been present at a fire where he burned items that appeared to be personal belongings. Steve claimed that he tried to find out what Arturo was doing. Then Arturo told him that he wanted to get rid of Shannon's clothes because she allegedly cheated on him. Steve added that that night, Arturo's friend Andrew Herman showed up. The two men spent the rest of the meeting burning more of Shannon's belongings. The people who spoke to Arturo that night confirmed that he was telling the same story, that he wanted to destroy his girlfriend's belongings because of alleged infidelity. Police searched Steve's property and found evidence of fire, ash, and a bracelet belonging to Shannon. The investigation then turned to Andrew Herman. Police contacted a woman named Jay, who knew Andrew and his wife, Michelle Henfeld. Jay said that Arturo and Katrina killed Shannon, and Andrew helped dismember the body. She added that Katrina was jealous of Shannon and wanted to completely take her place next to Arturo. Gradually, it became clear that a whole group of people were involved in covering up the murder. Police also received evidence that Michelle threatened witnesses to hinder the investigation. According to testimony, she told them that if they spoke out, they would end up like Shannon. In September 2017, Andrew and Michelle were arrested and held pending trial. Meanwhile, Shannon's family experienced another tragedy. Her father, Ronnie, died suddenly. Her sister, Debbie, began therapy to cope with the loss of her sister and father in such a short time. In addition to the charge of abuse of human remains, Arturo and Katrina were also charged with aggravated murder. Before the trial, the authorities were able to reconstruct what had happened. In April 2016, Arturo and Shannon began a relationship that quickly became serious. They soon moved in together. But their relationship deteriorated, and Shannon considered breaking up with him several times. On February 24, 2017, Arturo was at Shannon's house on Mahoning Avenue. At one point, he hit her several times on the head with a heavy metal object, killing her. Investigators believed Katrina was present. but it was unclear whether she was directly involved in the attack. Arturo then took Shannon's body to his home and called Andrew and Michelle to help him get rid of it. The two men used sulfuric acid, but because the quantity was not sufficient, they only managed to destroy the head and torso. The remaining parts were bagged with Michelle's help and put in a freezer. Michelle also helped clean up the area, as well as wash the clothes of those involved. Shannon's phone was turned off after February 28th and showed no further activity. Her welfare card stopped working until Katrina started using it again weeks later, pretending to be Shannon. On March 1st, 2017, Arturo bought another freezer from a local store. The original receipt helped investigators trace the purchase and confirm that the dates matched Shannon's disappearance. Shortly after, Arturo took the freezer to Kenneth's house, making up the story about the power outage and the meat he didn't want to spoil. The following month, he used a bonfire to destroy Shannon's clothes, documents, and other belongings along with Andrew. The trial against Arturo Novoa began on October 22, 2018. Prosecutors described the case as one of the most horrific in the history of Mahoning County and perhaps in all of Ohio. Special Prosecutor Dan Caceres portrayed Arturo as someone who wanted Shannon's money, credit cards, car, and property. The prosecution claimed that Katrina was jealous of the victim and wanted to completely replace her in Arturo's life. There were also sealed witness protection statements in the case. When the four defendants saw the strength of the evidence against them, they realized they were facing the harshest possible punishment. Therefore, midway through the trial, they pleaded guilty to avoid a harsher sentence. On June 14, 2019, Arturo Novoa was sentenced to 48 years and 1 month in prison, to life in prison for aggravated murder and other charges. Judge Anthony DeFrino called his actions inhumane, cruel, sadistic, and barbaric. Katrina Layton was sentenced to 18 years in prison for her role in the cover-up, the misuse of human remains, and the tampering with evidence. Andrew Herman was sentenced to 12 years in prison for abuse of remains and tampering with evidence. Michelle Henfeld received 2.5 years in prison for obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence, followed by a 6-month addiction treatment program. After the trial, Devi told the media that she was grateful that her sister's killer was no longer on the streets and that Arturo had paid for his crimes. Arturo's lawyer filed an appeal, claiming that his client was not properly informed of the maximum sentence. However, the Ohio prosecutor's office said that the judge clearly warned him about the possibility of receiving a life sentence. Ultimately, the verdict was upheld. After the case ended, Devi created a social media page to keep her sister's memory alive. She often visited Shannon's grave in St. John's Cemetery. She also had a special ritual. After mowing the grass, she would draw a big pink heart next to the tombstone because pink was Shannon's favorite color. But the victim's torso and head were never found. Due to the partial destruction with acid and subsequent disposal, Shannon's family was never able to bury her in the manner she deserved. Shannon was brutally murdered when her whole life was still ahead of her. And the cruelty of the crime and the cold-bloodedness of the accomplices showed how far people who no longer see the victim as a human can go. The story of Shannon Graves is one of those stories that lingers in the mind long after the end, not only because of the horrific discovery in the freezer, because it shows how a person can be erased from their life while others try to take their place. Her phone, her car, her dog, her job, even her name. But the truth didn't stay locked away forever. One hairdresser, one padlock, and one family who refused to stop searching for answers uncovered a crime that the perpetrators thought they had covered up. If you found this video interesting, subscribe to the channel. Here we tell true crime cases that show how dark the human mind can be and how important it is that no one is forgotten.